Heartwarming truth revealed. Family called suspicious turns out to have police chief as dad. In the heart of Maplewood, a quaint little town where every face felt familiar, the Johnson family faced an onslaught of whispers and dark looks that no small-town bakery should endure. Emily Johnson, the eldest daughter, stood behind the glass counter of their beloved bakery, her heart heavy. Just 18, she had dreams of cupcakes and pastries dancing in her mind, sweet dreams now clouded by the storm of community judgment. The price increases they had to implement to stay afloat were necessities, not indulgences. But to the townsfolk, they were greed, a betrayal of their trust. Jake, her spirited 10-year-old brother, sat on a stool nearby, cradling a rolling pin like it was a sword. "I'll defend our bakery, Emily," he declared, wide-eyed and fierce. "They're wrong. We're a good family." His innocence was a light in the shadow of their struggles. "The LLC," he continued, face resolute. Emily watched him, courage swelling in her chest, but the weight of the town's suspicions bore down on her like a lead blanket. Across town, their father, Officer Tom Johnson, pored over reports of thefts that plagued Maplewood. As chief of police, he dedicated every hour to closure and safety, leaving less and less time for family. Each call to duty felt like a layer of distance between him and his children, a wall of silence that grew higher with each passing day. What they didn't know was that his heart ached too. He was just trying to protect them from a world that seemed to be fraying at the edges. Thoughts swirled as Emily arranged a plate of cookies and glanced outside, catching sight of their neighbors. Tension bubbled beneath the surface of the close-knit community. Whispers turned to glares, and the bakery began to feel less like home. What if they think we're up to no good? Emily pondered, dread creeping in. Before the weight crushed her spirit completely, a plan flickered in her thoughts. If the community could come together, they could dispel the murky air of suspicion. She turned to Jake. "What if we hold a meeting? Just to talk and listen?" Jake's eyes lit up. "Yes. We can make cookies for everyone. They have to see we're not the bad guys." With fire in their hearts, the siblings set into motion a community meeting, their rattled confidence transforming into determination. Excitement mingled with anxiety as they prepared the bakery for the crowd, baking batch after batch, filling the air with sweetness that belied their struggles. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the bakery, neighbors began to gather, their faces a patchwork of emotions. Tension cracked the air, but Jake's laughter rang out, drawing hesitant smiles. Emily stood by the door, her heart pounding. Would this gathering mend the rift? Or would it reveal deeper divides? Just then their father, Tom, arrived, the weight of his badge present yet silent. With the community gathered and whispers fueling the atmosphere, the time for truth had arrived. Would Officer Tom's silent sacrifice prove to be the key to understanding? As the warmth of the bakery enveloped them all, an unexpected ally stepped forward, holding secrets of the past that could shatter perceptions. But would it mend broken bonds? The warm glow from the bakery's lights spilled into the growing twilight, illuminating familiar faces that had once filled the shop with laughter. Now they appeared wary, eyes darting nervously from the siblings to the baked goods adorning the counter. Emily felt a lump in her throat, while Jake, still clutching his rolling pin, stood tall beside her. Their father, Tom, shifted uncomfortably at the back, his uniform crisp but his expression troubled. He had always been the guardian, the protector of Maplewood. But now, the faces of his own neighbors turned from grateful smiles to distrustful frowns. Could he really bridge the gap between his children and the community he served? "Thank you all for coming," Emily began, her voice trembling slightly. She took a deep breath and pressed on. "We wanted to host this meeting tonight to clear the air. There have been misunderstandings," and a voice from the crowd cut her off. "Misunderstandings? Your prices have shot up. It's all about money for you, isn't it?" The accusation stung, and Emily felt heat rise in her face. She had anticipated skepticism but not this outright hostility. "It's not like that. We're just trying to keep the bakery open. The costs of everything have risen and we didn't want to change anything. Jake took a step forward, his small frame brimming with passion. We love this bakery. It's our home. And we want you all to love it too. His innocent plea sliced through the tension, momentarily drawing chuckles from some neighbors. But the laughter faded quickly, replaced by a palpable unease. The flickering candlelight played tricks on faces twisted in judgment. Tom decided it was time to step in. His normally authoritative voice softened, filled with a fatherly concern. I know many of you have questions. Please let us take a moment to listen to each other. Flowers of hope blossomed in the chilling air as neighbors exchanged wary glances. Maybe, just maybe, they could talk this through. As Tom recounted how he had been working tirelessly to keep the town safe from thefts, the crowd's defenses began to slowly lower. We're not perfect, he admitted, looking directly at Emily and Jake. But as a family, we're trying to do our best. Suddenly, an elderly woman named Mrs. Henderson raised her hand, her voice shaky yet resolute. Tom dear, you've served us well over the years. But why didn't you come to us? We're not mind readers. The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of years of silence. Tom glanced at Emily, who looked back at him with a newfound understanding. You're right, Mrs. Henderson. I thought I was protecting you. And my family. But I realize now it generated more confusion than anything. Just then, Emily was interrupted by the clatter of a chair. A neighbor, Paul, stood up red-faced and shouted, our trust was betrayed. People need to feel secure in our community. What do we do now? The room fell silent, tension rising once more. Only footsteps echoed against the wooden floor. Emily's heart raced. Would their plea for understanding fall on deaf ears? But before she could respond, Jake, with a quirked smile, raised his hands dramatically. How about we make everything better with cupcakes? Like a peace offering. Laughter erupted, breaking the tension like a wave crashing over rocks. The warmth wrapped around Emily like a comforting blanket. Maybe they could bridge the divide after all. As the crowd began to murmur amongst themselves, ideas flickering to life like the dim candle flames, Emily couldn't shake the feeling of something larger brewing beneath the surface. She wondered if confronting these issues would also reveal deeper secrets. What lay hidden within their community that could shift everything again? With hope stirring within her, she readied herself for what lay ahead, knowing that the conversation was only just beginning. What would be revealed next? Would the truth unite them or create irreparable divides? The laughter hung in the air, a delicate reminder of the joy that had always surrounded the bakery. But beneath that laugh, a current of tension lingered. Emily looked at Jake, who still beamed with pride for his peace offering. She felt a shift amongst the gathering. Some people still glared, arms crossed defiantly in front of them. Tom sighed, then stepped forward again, his gaze sweeping across the crowd. It's true we've faced challenges, and we haven't been perfect, he said softly. But I promise my family's intentions are rooted in love, and a desire to keep this bakery alive. We want to be part of this community, not apart from it. Still whispers followed his words. Emily's heart sank, a knot of uncertainty tightening in her stomach. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, peering down into an abyss. Could they truly reclaim their place among these people? Paul spoke once more, his voice tinged with skepticism. Intentions don't pay the bills. Words won't fix what's broken. A murmur of agreement rippled through the group. The atmosphere shifted again. Rather than despair, Emily felt a spark ignite within her. She straightened her back, summoning courage. What if we came together not just out of trust but to rebuild it? Let us plan bake-offs, cooking classes, community events. Let us make Maplewood a place where we share more than just bread. The audience seemed to pause, digesting her words. It was a hopeful suggestion, one that offered collaboration instead of confrontation. But still, she noticed familiar faces with furrowed brows, unsure of her sincerity. Jake chimed in, and we can give a portion of the profits back to our town. Suddenly, there was a slight spark in the crowd, and a few hesitant nods shifted through the uncertainty. Could they actually envision this? Mrs. Henderson, her wise face betraying emotions of hope and concern, leaned forward. That's a lovely thought, Emily. But it'll take time. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight. Exactly, Emily said, feeling a pool of gratitude swell inside her. but we're willing to put in the effort. We want to listen to you all too. Your thoughts matter. Tom stepped in, voice firm but warm. We are here to support each other. We can't move forward without facing our past. And I'll start by addressing my lack of communication. The crowd began to soften. Glances became more open. Tension eased slightly. There was still work to be done, but hope flickered in the faces turning toward one another for the first time that evening. As Emily glanced around, she felt a rush of warmth. Just then the bakery's door swung open, and a group of children darted in, laughter bubbling over like fresh frosting. Their carefree joy cut through the remaining heaviness. It wasn't just about cupcakes or baked goods. It was about memories made. It was about the sticky hands of kids mixing batter, about holiday treats and neighbors sharing secrets over the counter. Suddenly a thought hit her. Let us have an event, a reopening party. We can showcase recipes that have been passed down for generations. Tentative excitement rippled through the crowd, and a few voices rose in agreement. The conversation began to flow more freely, and the laughter of children twinkled like a beacon of hope. But just as Emily felt a giddy warmth rise within her, a loud crash echoed from the back of the bakery. Everyone turned, expressions shifting from joy to confusion once more. What was that? Someone whispered, a frown returning. Fear settled heavily in the air again. Were there surprises lurking still? Questions flooded Emily's mind. What else lay underneath the surface of their community? Her heart raced at the possibilities, and she knew that, despite the warmth of the evening, deeper truths were still waiting to be revealed. Emily felt her heartbeat quicken, the joyous energy of the moment dissipating like the last notes of an uplifting song. The sudden crash had replaced laughter with silence, a heavy tension clinging to the air. She exchanged anxious glances with Jake, who shifted on his feet, his earlier enthusiasm forgotten. What was that? Mrs. Henderson whispered, her voice barely masking her worry. I don't know, Emily managed, forcing her voice to stay steady. She took a deep breath, trying to collect her scattered thoughts. It's probably just something that fell, she attempted to reassure them all. But deep down, uncertainty gnawed at her. Tom stepped back, eyebrows furrowed, moving toward the source of the noise. The uneasy murmurs of the crowd simmered beneath the surface, growing louder like waves crashing against a rocky shore. Stay here, he told Emily and Jake firmly, as he made his way through the small gathering. With every step he took, Emily noticed the faces around her shifting, full of questioning and unease. Old resentments were bubbling beneath the surface, ready to erupt. This was the type of moment that could knock their cautious progress off kilter, sending their hopes crashing like a fragile pastry tossed carelessly in the air. Focus on the kids, Jake said, trying to redirect the mood. He smiled at the children, who remained blissfully unaware, their laughter floating like a melody, a stark contrast to the tension brewing in the adults. But then another crash echoed through the bakery, a larger sound this time. The front door, the very symbol of their hopes for reconnection, flew open hard enough to rattle the frame. A tall figure loomed in the doorway, silhouetted against the twilight. Oh no, someone gasped, instinctively clasping their hands over their mouth. It was Sheriff Anderson, a face both familiar and feared in Maplewood, especially in moments like this. Anxiety spread like wildfire, igniting whispers throughout the bakery. Emily's stomach twisted. What did he want? Had something more serious happened? Evening, folks, Sheriff Anderson said calmly, stepping inside with his sheriff's hat in hand, his voice carrying authority yet a hint of warmth reminiscent of small-town comfort. Just checking in. Heard a commotion inside. He paused, eyeing the looks of confusion and apprehension. Is everything all right? Tom returned to Emily's side, where the two exchanged worried glances. Just a little gathering, Sheriff, he replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Looks like you're all starting something here, Anderson said, a hint of a grin breaking through his otherwise serious demeanor. But mind the disruptions, Maplewood needs its bakery in one piece, after all. That statement hung in the air, heavy with unspoken history. Memories of past closures flashed through Emily's mind, like flickering images before her. Would the sheriff be the bearer of bad news again? Or could he be the lifeline to pull them all back together? Why are you really here? Emily asked, her voice stronger than she felt. If it's about the noise, Sheriff Anderson held up a hand. Calm down, Emily. I'm not here for trouble. He smiled, a twinkle in his eye that made her feel a bit more at ease. Just scouting for your father. He sent me to check on you. Thought you'd appreciate a family face here. A wave of surprise washed over her. My father? She echoed, bewildered by the connection. Yes, well, you know how families can be. Your dad is worried. And he's not alone. We're all rooting for this place to thrive. Her heart swelled a mix of gratitude and confusion. So many pieces were falling into place, but with the sheriff's arrival, another layer had been added. What other truths would be revealed about their community and her family? Let us talk, she urged, heart pounding with urgency. But just as she opened her mouth to say more, another crash rang out this time, from the back of the bakery, where shadows danced ominously. What now? Jake murmured, eyes wide. Emily felt the shift in the air once again, a magnetic pull of uncertainty drawing everyone's attention. As fear tightened its grip, she wondered if it would expose the community's secrets or deepen the rifts that had long separated them. The night was far from over, and just when they thought they were on the path to healing, new revelations threatened to surface. What awaited them behind that door? The air thickened with tension as a third crash reverberated from the back of the bakery, pulling every eye toward the dimly lit hallway. The children, still clutching their treats and giggling together, sensed the change in atmosphere and quieted. The once vibrant tones of laughter seemed to dissolve, replaced by whispers and anxious glances. Emily's heart raced as she held onto the edge of the counter, feeling its cool surface grounding her in the storm of emotions swirling around her. What was that? Jake's voice trembled slightly as he inched closer to Emily, their discomfort palpable. Sheriff Anderson turned toward the noise, his expression shifting from relaxed to alert. Stay here, he instructed, echoing Tom's earlier words, as he stepped away from the group. The crowd's murmurs escalated, uncertainty hanging over them like a dark cloud. Emily watched the sheriff as he moved with purpose, his boots echoing against the tiled floor, each step steadying her own nerves for what was to come. Emily, it could just be a problem with the kitchen equipment, Jake suggested, though the hint of disbelief in his voice betrayed his growing concern. Or something worse, she uttered, her voice barely above a whisper. The sheriff paused at the door leading to the storage room, listening intently. Emily could see the muscles in his jaw tense, the glint of his badge reflecting a mix of bravery and worry. With a single motion, he swung open the door, revealing a shadowy figure just inside. The room was cluttered with baking necessities, boxes stacked high, and amongst them stood someone familiar but unexpected. Megan? Emily's voice broke through the anxiety, tinged with surprise. Her friend was crouching near the floor, hands clutching what appeared to be a broken wooden shelf. Dust erupted around her as she straightened up, suddenly aware of the unexpected audience. Megan, what are you doing here? Emily rushed forward, relief flooding through her. I came to help set up for the evening, Megan exclaimed, her eyes wide and breathless. But then I tripped on something. I thought I got everything sorted, but I guess I missed a few things. Are you all right? Emily checked, stepping closer. Megan nodded, wincing slightly but managing a smile. Just a little shake-up, nothing, a good cupcake, one tea fix, she added cheerfully. Yet Emily could see the embarrassment beneath the bravado. The tension in the bakery began to dissolve as Megan brushed herself off, causing faint smiles to ripple through the crowd. The sheriff laughed lightly, the sound breaking the tense atmosphere. Well, I suppose we've all had our fair share of accidents tonight. Just when relief seemed to settle in, an older gentleman from the back piped up. We can't gloss over that. It's a sign, isn't it? Something's stirring in Maplewood, something's about to change. Emily felt a chill creep down her spine. The truth of the old man's words resonated too deeply, pulling on her heartstrings. She exchanged a glance with Jake, the unspoken question hanging between them. As the chatter resumed, it morphed into a flurry of opinions and discussions about what this change could mean for their community. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something vital was on the horizon, like a storm building, both exhilarating and terrifying. Just then, a voice piping up from the children broke her thoughts. Are you going to keep the bakery open, Miss Emily? One of them, wide-eyed and hopeful, asked innocently. The weight of their gazes landed on her, the gravity of their future resting heavily on her shoulders. Could she really ensure it all held together? Could she be strong enough to navigate whatever lay ahead? With a voice steadier than she felt, she replied, As long as we all stick together, I promise we'll keep it open. But with those words she wondered, would the unity they forged be enough to withstand the intricacies of their interwoven fates? Would they all stand united as one, even when the shadows lengthened and the past loomed larger than life? Just then, a new sound emerged, a faint, rhythmic tapping that seemed to echo from the front of the bakery, growing louder. Everyone paused, their attention drawn to the entrance once more, anticipation rising in the air. What was it now? The tapping intensified, a persistent beat that resonated through the walls of the bakery, stopping every conversation in its tracks. Emily felt her heart skip, each thump sending shocks of anxiety racing through her. Is it a delivery? Jake whispered, his eyes darting nervously to the bakery's front door. Sheriff Anderson straightened, matching the urgency in Emily's chest, and headed towards the exit. Emily could see the growing concern etched deep into his expression. The crowd shifted, bodies craning to catch a glimpse of what was lurking outside. Suddenly, the door swung open, and a gust of wind rushed in, flipping the open sign from one side to another. There, silhouetted against the dim streetlight outside, stood a figure. Emily's breath caught. "Mom." It slipped out before she could process the surprise. Her mother stepped into the light, holding a parcel tightly in her grip. Confusion washed over Emily's face. Why was she here? "Sorry I didn't tell you I was coming. I wanted it to be a surprise." Her mother moved closer, relief spreading across her features when she caught sight of Emily. The bakery had transformed from a place of uncertainty to a stage of reunion. The children, forgetting their worries, rushed towards the warmth of familial comfort. The moment was unexpected, swirling with laughter and smothers of affection. But as Emily hugged her mom tightly, a shadow of cloudiness slipped back in. What if this was the calm before the storm? Her mother's sudden visit felt too perfect, like a passing rainbow among dark clouds. Sheriff Anderson stepped in, abstracting Emily's thoughts. "Ma'am, is everything all right?" His tone was respectful, but Emily sensed the underlying elements of caution. They weren't just in a bakery anymore. They were in a situation that felt tangled, a web spinning tighter by the moment. "Oh yes, everything is fine. Just made a little trip to see Emily." Her mother's eyes darted to the crowd, probably gauging reactions. "It's been a long week. I thought she could use a little boost." While her mom spoke, Emily wondered how many secrets shrouded their lives. The fear lingering outside their bakery felt all too real, partly because of the old man's words and partly because of the bruises Emily had hidden within. As comforting as her mother's presence was, it also stirred up feelings of unease, the kind that trailed the lost and the wandering. The crowd began to murmur again, shifting in anticipation, as a group of teenagers strolled by the bakery. Their laughter echoed off the walls, yet their stares remained fixed on the scene unfolding before them. Emily felt their scrutiny like a palpable weight. "What are you all doing here?" "We don't want trouble," one of them called cheerfully, though their tone cut like a knife. "Just enjoying the fresh pastries." Jake shot back, trying to reclaim the light-hearted atmosphere. Emily's mom positioned herself next to Emily. "Maybe I should take a tray of goodies out there." "No, Mom, please." "It's not worth it," Emily insisted, urgency bubbling to the surface. She looked towards the sheriff, who stood with arms crossed, brows furrowed in thought, but just then, another sound joined the rhythmic tapping, a heartbeat synchronized with a more serious tone, echoing from the back of the bakery. Was it more than just noise? Emily's stomach sank, a tightness gripping her chest. "What is happening?" she whispered to herself, anxiety clawing at her throat. The sheriff turned sharply. "Something's not right. Everyone stay back." Panic rippled through the group, and with her mother by her side, Emily stared wide-eyed toward the back where the sounds grew more complex and sinister, sending her heart racing. What exactly was going on behind the walls of their safe haven? The atmosphere shifted again, thickening like fog rolling in over the ocean, and with it, a sense of dread took hold. Emily pressed closer to her mother, feeling her heart hammering beneath the walls of flesh and fabric. She wished for just a moment of normalcy, to focus on the warm aroma of fresh pastries surrounding them, but the tension gnawed at her. Sheriff Anderson's eyes narrowed, scanning the dimly lit corners of the bakery. "Jake, stay close," he instructed, his voice low and firm. Distracted by the scene, Emily felt small and trapped. She squeezed her mother's hand, hoping to draw strength from her presence. "What's in that parcel, Mom?" she ventured, trying to divert the growing chaos with her curiosity. "Oh, just some things I thought you'd need," her mom replied. But her eyes flickered with an uncertainty that didn't sit right with Emily. Was it just the surprise visit? Or was there something more to her mother's arrival? Wasn't everything supposed to be fine? Suddenly, the back door creaked loudly, an echo in the stillness that drew every gaze. Emily's breath hitched. The sound clawed its way into her consciousness like an alarm bell. Sheriff Anderson stepped forward, cautiously easing toward the noise. The crowd held its breath as the door swung open, revealing something hidden behind it. A large wooden crate was positioned in the back room, a half-open flap swinging ominously. It cast shadows on the walls like dark figures whispering secrets. Emily could see the sheriff's fingers wriggle as he pulled out his flashlight, the beam breaking the intricate dance of light and shadow. "What's in the crate?" someone shouted from the back of the crowd, uncertainty rippling through the audience. As the sheriff approached the crate, Emily's heart raced. Was there something dangerous inside? She recalled the old man's warning, the invasion of unease coursing through her. Sheriff Anderson paused, then carefully lifted the flap. The moment stretched, taut like a suspended string ready to snap. Emily squinted, trying to peek around the sheriff's towering figure. When the light hit the interior, gasps filled the bakery. Inside were stacks of documents, bags, and other assorted items none of them understood. Whispers erupted, filling the air with confusion and fear. "Drugs? Illegal stuff? What does this mean for us?" Emily shook her head, trying to process each word. The panic stirred, swallowing her whole. This didn't feel like a surprise visit anymore. It felt like an unraveling, threads of their quiet lives slipping away. "Everyone stay calm," the sheriff commanded, raising his voice over the din. But how could they? The fear soon morphed into murmurs of distrust, finger-pointing, and accusations. Emily's heart pounded. In that moment, she grasped the fragile nature of their community, a labyrinth of friendships teetering on the edge of collapse. "Emily," her mother breathed, her grip tightening around her daughter's fingers. The worry in her eyes mirrored the uncertainty gripping Emily's heart. Then, breaking through the noise, a single voice pierced the air. "We need to see what this really is. We can't turn on each other." It was Jake stepping forward, resolute despite the tremor in his voice. He looked around, searching for familiarity, but all he saw were shaking heads and a brewing storm of anxiety. "Yeah, we need to be strong together." Another voice chimed in, rallying to Jake's sentiment. Emily watched as the crowd shifted yet again. A flicker of hope ignited. Maybe, just maybe, they could face this together. But even as voices rose in solidarity, a dark realization settled in. What if the truth was more complicated than they all feared? What if their family ties twisted deeper into this situation than any of them dared to believe? As her heart raced, the immediate reality of their lives settled heavily around her. The shadows hadn't vanished, they were merely gathering strength. "Where are the police?" A worried voice broke back in. "Why haven't they shown up?" Emily's eyes darted back to her mother. "Mom, what is happening?" she pleaded, desperate for clarity. The room fell silent once more, all eyes on her mother. As the weight of expectation hung, Emily sensed the shifting lines of trust between friends and family. And in that pivotal silence, they all waited for a revelation that could change everything. Emily's heart thundered in her chest, each beat feeling like a countdown. A strange mix of dread and anticipation washed over her as her mother finally met the crowd's gaze. She appeared smaller, somehow, under the weight of their eyes, the baking aroma now laced with the bitterness of tension. Tension crackled, and seconds felt like hours. "Everyone," her mother began, her voice unsteady but ringing with determination. I need to explain." Sheriff Anderson shifted, tension pooling in his shoulders. Emily held her breath, wondering if he would intervene, but he remained quietly observant. The crowd leaned in, eager for answers but wary of what might come next. "There's nothing to fear," her mother continued, a brave smile creeping in despite the atmosphere. "I didn't want to start a panic. I brought the package because I wanted you all to know some things." She paused, her gaze flitting nervously around the room. "Things that could really shake this community up." "Just say it," someone shouted, frustration seeping through the air like a dark smoke. With a resolute breath, her mother plunged forward. I've been getting threats that connect back to the crate. It has evidence that someone is running something illegal, and it's bigger than any of us thought. Gasps erupted. Emily felt her heart drop. There it was, the fear they'd all been tiptoeing around. Why didn't you tell us before? Jake stepped forward, disbelief etched on his brow. You could have put everyone in danger. Emily's stomach lurched. She could see the cracks beginning to form in the once solid bonds around her. Friends were now becoming accusators, and she fought against the tide of uncertainty swelling in the room. Her mom pressed on. I didn't want to drag any of you into this. Her voice quivered. But I realize that to keep you safe, we all need to work together. The evidence will reveal who's really behind this. What do you mean colluding? A man, someone from a family that had known hers for years, asked sharply. You think we can just trust each other blindly now that this is out? I trust you, Emily shouted, surprising even herself. I trust all of you. She felt the connection tugging at her heart, and she needed to believe it. This community has been strong because we've stood by one another. We can work together to figure this out. Silence followed, and Emily felt the tension pull tighter. She knew it was naive, perhaps reckless, but as she looked into the faces around her, there was a glimmer of something, not certainty, but possibility. Emily's mother stepped forward, a fierce spirit lighting her features. Together we can protect what we have. This is all about preserving our home. A murmur rippled through the crowd, some nodding while others crossed their arms sourly. Emily could sense the collective heartbeat, an undercurrent of fear intertwining with hope. Before anyone could respond, the bakery door crashed open with a force that sent ripples of alarm through the crowd. A figure stepped inside, disheveled and panting. Everyone! The police are finally here! He exclaimed, his eyes darting around like a trapped bird. A mix of relief and confusion burst through the crowd, but Emily felt the disconnect again. What were the police going to say? What did this mean for her mother's revelations? As she scanned the room, one chilling thought froze her in place. Was this going to bring them together or push them further apart? The sound of footsteps echoed as more officers streamed in, the sheriff visibly shifting his weight, his brow furrowing. What is happening here? He asked, steeling himself against the storm of questions, and then, as if someone had pulled a string, tension hung in the air again. Emily felt the familiar knot tightening in her chest. The truth was about to lay bare, but would it bring them back or tear them even further apart? Emily's stomach twisted as she watched the police officers enter, their uniforms stark against the warm, earthy tones of the bakery. The once familiar place felt suddenly foreign, like a theater stage set for an unexpected drama. Sheriff Anderson stepped forward, his demeanor serious but calm. Can someone fill me in? His voice was steady, but Emily could see the flicker of anxiety in his eyes as he looked between her mother and the gathered crowd. The disheveled figure who had burst through the door gestured wildly. They're here to help. There's been, his voice caught, the weight of the moment crashing down on him. There's been a series of break-ins around town. We thought they could connect to whatever's happening. Emily's heart raced. The very thing her mother had been hinting at seemed to engulf them all. The bakery, once a sanctuary of warmth and laughter, now felt like a boiling pot, every simmering fear threatening to spill over. Her mother's gaze stayed locked on the sheriff, her voice unwavering. I brought the package detailed in the threats. I believe it holds the key to uncovering who's really behind this. A soft gasp echoed through the crowd. Whispers began to rise and tumble like rolling waves. Each murmur magnified their uncertainty, deepening the rift that had begun to form. Emily wanted to shout, to remind them of the bond they'd forged through years of shared laughter and struggle, but the words caught in her throat. Sheriff Anderson took a step closer to Emily's mother. Do you understand the gravity of what you're saying? If this evidence is as serious as you imply, we need to approach this carefully. I don't want to be careless, her mother replied, her tone steadier than Emily felt. But we can't just ignore it either. This isn't just about protecting ourselves. It's about protecting this community. Jake was fidgeting beside Emily, the skepticism plain on his face. And what if this evidence puts the whole town in danger? We've families here, lives. Emily felt the sharpness of his words digging into her, but she knew that fear could just as easily turn allies into enemies. And what if we do nothing? We can't be sitting ducks. She shot back, meeting Jake's gaze. The tension shifted again. Each person in the bakery holding their breath as unsaid emotions flittered through the air. It was so palpable that Emily could almost reach out and touch it. Listen, a voice cut through the heavy atmosphere. It was Mr. Coyne, an older gentleman known for his quiet wisdom. We've always faced our problems head-on as a community. It's who we are. We've built this town together. And now we must trust one another to protect it. At those words, something shifted among the crowd. Nods began to ripple back and forth, anticipation sparking in various expressions. Emily felt a flicker of hope clawing its way into her heart, battling the remaining fear. Sheriff Anderson nodded slowly, allowing the air of trepidation to fill the cracks with possibility. All right, let us take a look at that package, he said gently, addressing both her mother and the crowd. But I want you all to work together. Just then, Emily's phone buzzed in her pocket, a sudden intrusion into the fragile moment unfolding. She pulled it out, glancing down to see a text from her best friend Laura. What is happening? You okay? The worry in that simple message tugged at her as she replied with trembling hands. Not sure yet, but something's about to break. As the officers moved toward the package, Emily's heart raced again. A new kind of anticipation building inside her. Would this cracked display of unity hold? Could they genuinely confront whatever darkness loomed over their town? The police surrounded her mother, the unknown package poised to unveil the truth. With every second that passed, the stakes only seemed to rise higher. Yet deep down, Emily could almost feel a spark, a shared resolve that gave her hope. But as her mother's hands unraveled the contents within, the crowd held its breath, waiting for a revelation that could either save them or destroy them all. Would the truth bring them together? Or would it unravel the very fabric of their community? The atmosphere in the bakery was electric as Emily's mother carefully unwrapped the parcel. The gathered crowd held its breath, each heartbeat echoing the tension in the air. As the final layers peeled away, the contents finally came into view, folders filled with documents, seemingly ordinary but charged with the potential to tip the scales of their small town. Is this what I think it is? Sheriff Anderson murmured, stepping closer, flashlight illuminating the paper's evidence that hinted at a web of corruption encircling Maplewood itself. A low murmur rippled through the crowd, vibrating with a mix of fear and disbelief. Old friendships and new alliances were on the brink of shattering. Who would dare to do such a thing? Paul, a longtime local, voiced the question gnawing at everyone's minds. In our town? His disbelief was a shared sentiment, a painful reminder that trust had been taken for granted. Emily felt her heart sink. The truth hung heavy, laden with potential betrayals from neighbors they thought they knew. But she couldn't allow fear to drown their resolve. We can't let this divide us. She raised her voice, searching the crowd for familiar faces. We need to unite now more than ever. This evidence needs to see the light. Sheriff Anderson nodded, his jaw set. She's right, he affirmed, addressing the room. We may not know whom to trust yet, but hiding doesn't solve this. We need to stand together. Tom stepped forward, his voice cracking with emotion. As your chief, my desire was always to protect you. I thought doing so meant keeping you in the dark. He cast a glance at Emily, his eyes reflecting regret. I was wrong. We're all in this together. Even as bonds began to form through the flames of conflict, the crowd's uncertainty lingered. But what if someone sabotaged that package? What if this is a trap? A voice split through the tension, representing doubts that still swirled. Jake, holding the nearby rolling pin tighter, declared boldly, we can't let fear win. Remember what we love about Maplewood, our community. The bakery isn't just a building. It's the heart of our town. With those words, the air shifted again. The crowd began to nod, thoughts turning towards redemption rather than fear. Emily could feel the tenuous threads beginning to weave back together. Let us start a new chapter. We've tasted our fears. Let us serve them up as a recipe for healing. She urged, and slowly, hope flickered back into their eyes. At that moment, Mrs. Henderson stood up, her voice now steady and filled with wisdom. I've known many of you for decades. Let us not forget the bonds built over generations. Our trust will take time to mend, but together we can dismantle whatever poison has been lurking. The crowd murmured in agreement. Confidence began to flutter back among familiar faces. Emily felt a warmth spread through her, providing the courage to drive their collective resilience home. Suddenly, Sheriff Anderson stepped nearer to her mother. "If what you say is true, then we'll need to call in the units to track these leads. But you must promise us to keep channels open and keep this community safe." As her mother nodded, determination reflecting their shared conviction, Emily turned to the crowd. "Let us host a community meeting next week. We'll make it a celebration of Maplewood. We can take the first steps toward transparency and restoration." Excited murmurs erupted, and the initial spark of unity turned into a roaring flame. One by one, people began to volunteer to help. They planned a bake-off, a potluck, even a day of service. Everything erupted in a wave of enthusiasm as Emily glanced over at Jake, who was beaming with pride. Even Sheriff Anderson showed signs of relief, and as he stepped out of the circle, passing the baton back, he smiled faintly. Remember, the strength of a community lies in its unity. As planning enveloped the room, Emily glanced out the front door to see the night sky, sprinkled with stars just like a new beginning. Each sparkle seemed to echo her renewed hope, the promise of a better Maplewood. "Together we will rise stronger," she whispered. And as laughter blended with the clinking of baking sheets and plans, it felt as though they were crafting something beautiful anew. And as the warmth of connection filled the bakery for the first time in weeks, she knew, despite the chaos that had rocked their lives, they had taken the pivotal steps not just to uncover the truth, but also to reclaim their story a sweet tale of resilience and belonging. If you felt this sudden transformation of Maplewood, you need to hit that subscribe button now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share this journey of hope with at least 5 friends who need to see this heartwarming story. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this energy flowing. And comment below with your thoughts on this incredible ending. Your feedback matters more than you know.